Riot police armed with stun grenades and water cannons moved in against protesters while the defiant crowd shouted, quote, "Glory to Ukraine." There were explosions, fireworks, large fires broke out as well in Independence Square. CCTV's Nathan King has been following the developments all day long, and he joins us live with the latest. Nathan?
Mike, you're absolutely right. 18 dead, the latest reported. 221 treated for their injuries, according to Ukrainian hospital officials. And also the union buildings where the protesters have made their headquarters for the last few weeks. Up in flames, you understand, at this moment, people trying to escape that, a breaking news situation. And everything seemed to be so much better as day broke in Kiev just 24 hours before. Amnesty had been announced for political prisoners who were being released. The protesters had left the city hall building that they were occupying, and there was even negotiations of a constitutional changes for the whole of Ukraine. But once again, Ukraine erupted.
Ukraine aflame as the protests that have racked this country for months now turn deadly. A day that started peacefully ended in violence as protesters rushed to Independence Square, or the Maidan as it's known in Kiev, and the police began an operation to clear it. The country's interior ministry says 6 of their troops are among the dead. At least 7 protesters also died. It's a setback for Ukraine, whose president, Viktor Yanukovych, was sent to meet with his political rivals on Wednesday. Constitutional talks were also underway that could have strengthened the country's parliament. It isn't yet clear what this escalation of violence will mean for that process. But global condemnation is coming in fast.
I'm deeply worried by the escalation of violence in Kiev and the numbers of reported casualties. This violence and bloodshed must stop immediately.
We continue to condemn street violence and excessive use of force by either side. Force will not resolve the crisis.
But the issue that has divided Ukraine for over a decade remains, whether to move closer to Europe or remain closer to traditional ally Russia.
And this violence comes just as Russia has released $2 billion of the $15 billion that they plan to give Ukraine to prop up the economy. It's interesting that the square is now being cleared after the first funds have come through to Ukraine, and that, of course, is into lots of conspiracy theories on the ground.
Well, there's so many players involved here. I mean, you mentioned Russia, the United States. There was, of course, that leak recently, which was embarrassing to the U.S. and the EU. So what about political moves? What's happening on that front?
We understand at this hour, Viktor Yanukovych, the president, is actually potentially speaking to his political rivals. There's 3 or 4 who apparently have been waiting at the presidential residence for a meeting, but haven't yet had that meeting. All hopes are on this meeting to try and diffuse tensions in the square and in Kiev generally, but also we're getting reports of more and more violence across the country, which has been unusual. So really it's up to the political leaders inside Ukraine at this hour to try and create a climate where people can back off.
All right, Nathan, thanks so much.